Hello, hello, and yeah, how's it going? Have you had a good weekend, and yeah, has the last week been okay with you? I hope it has. My week has been it's been all right. I'm recording this. Well, I'm saying that although I'm recording it still at the technically end of the week, just because I'm away from the Mac and the setup for this, for the week that we are on the Monday that you're technically listening to the episode. I'm in the in Hull. I don't know. I was gonna say north. Yeah, in the north of London for sure. I don't know if the Hull classifies as north of. I guess it's north of England, or anyway, it's north third than where I am now, which is London. But yeah, I'll be there to basically yeah I'll be visiting my partner's family, and yeah, I don't know what. Obviously, I can't tell you what that's like because I can't predict it. I hope it's good. I hope it's gonna be good. I'm kind of looking forward to it. It's the first time I'm doing such a thing. So we'll see how it goes. I'm hopeful, but we shall see. I think this past week has been quite difficult. We've. I think this is one of the reasons why we've decided to do this is just because I need, or we both need a bit of a break, and that's a good way to wind down for just a couple of days. It's not much, but yeah, that's what we're doing. That's where I'm at, and because yeah, the this like the week that has passed has been challenging at times. I think I've been struggling with sleeping again. I had this thing on Wednesday when I couldn't tell whether I'm imagining stuff or whether it's it's happened for real. Um, Even waking up on Thursday morning, it kind of felt like I was imagining waking up. It was a very strange feeling, and I told my partner in the morning. I was like, "Hey, it feels as if the evening before was something that I've imagined." I couldn't tell whether the memories of what I've done on Wednesday evening, which wasn't much, obviously just at home, but I was like, "Hey, is that really happened? Like, is it just in my head, or did we actually do the things that we've um that I thought about, or like did we actually like have I if did we actually have this thing for dinner, or did we actually have this conversation in bed before we went to sleep?" That sort of stuff. It was very, very strange. Not the first time though, unfortunately. It's just it's a reoccurring thing. But besides of that, I've seen my therapist earlier in the week after a couple of weeks break because of her circumstances, and it was quite nice catching up with her and discussing, some of the stress that I've been obviously going through for now a couple. I mean, too many months, if you ask me, but it's still an ongoing issue, and yeah, that's been it's been quite. Obviously, it's a difficult situation, which again I can't talk about just yet, but we'll tell you as soon as I can, and it's because it's an ongoing legal thing. But as soon as that's done, I'll be able to talk about it, and I'll be able to share more, which I will happily do. Um, but yeah, it's still obviously very stressful. I'm kind of it's been tough for me. It's been tough for Irene. It's been tough for Irene, my partner. For anyone who's new to this, um, yeah, it's been a challenging period of time, and kind of speaking with my therapist about it. It was nice. I think we've managed to but I guess set a foundation, of no, obviously not a foundation in the respect of, I don't know, an organization, just a foundation for what is it that I've got to work on for the week, and then what else I got to, you know, I guess fix or work on until uh, after the holidays season and the new year. And I'm seeing her again on Monday. So when you're listening to this, depending at what time you do it on Monday, or if you're doing it at a different point during the week, well, on Monday I spoke with my therapist again, and we'll see how that goes, and I'll give you an update in obviously in a week from now. But besides of that, I've been able to do a couple of shows which I really enjoyed, and it's been a lot of fun, to be able to take my mind away from everything that's going on with my day job. It was quite nice to just, yeah, just find a way to distract myself. Then the meditation thing has been going kind of well. Although I had a couple of migraines last week, and like my head hurt a lot, but I was able to manage that. I'd say better. I mean, definitely better than I expected. I didn't have much expectations, but I've been using the Shakti mat for a couple of evenings, and then massaging and the tapping exercises, which I spoke about in a couple episodes ago. Maybe I started doing those, yeah, tapping exercises, and they worked. They worked, and they helped me. I think even before I started recording this, I actually I did a couple of exercises because I don't know, I just felt like like my head is going to explode. I felt very I felt like my eyes were very heavy to the point where it hurt moving my eyes. So the tapping exercises helped out a lot, and the meditation. I think it just helped me have a bit of a clearer mind, and you know not feel as overwhelmed. And yeah, that's good. But obviously it's cold outside. I guess maybe I've got a cold or something like that as well. That could be a reason why. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, and I am seeing my doctor this week, my GP, because I need to speak with them about my uh, I need some updates from them with other things, and I will mention as well um, this again pain that I've got in my head behind my eyes. And look, I think that's kind of enough from me, and I'll let you enjoy the episode. It's this week's guest was Henry, and he's a comedian. He's a comedian from Liverpool, and we talk about that, and we talk about this like really cool thing that he started organizing, which is basically combining comedy writing with mental health, and trying to help out people feel better. And it's cool. I think it's a great idea. I kind of, I'm maybe a little bit jealous that I didn't get to experience that before I started doing stand up. Although I started doing therapy before I started stand up. But yeah, it sounds like a cool idea, and also to have to talk with him, and figure out what was the reason behind it, or how he got into this. How did this idea come to mind? Was quite cool, and yeah, we discussed that, and I hope you enjoy listening to it. And Yeah, I think I'll catch you at the end, right before we wrap it up for the week. So yeah, enjoy. Okay, Henry. Hello. How's it going?
Hello, Larry. How are you doing? Nice to see you.
Lovely to see you too. Thank you for being accommodating. I think everyone listening, this is much later than I usually record, but it's been a hectic day. So yeah, thank you for being accommodating. How's your
No
day been?
problem. Day's been good. I've been doing a bit of comedy teaching, creative comedy writing with a group, which was always fun. So yeah, I've worked for a couple of hours. I'm semi-retired. You know, I'm trying to take things easy.
But that's amazing. Where were you teaching today?
Well, I was been teaching in a place called Hayden. Um, I did I teach a stand-up comedy course called Laugh for Life Comedy, and I've been taken up by the NHS organisation under the umbrella of social prescribing. Now, social prescribing is where there are a number of doctors who've got together and decided that not everybody with mental health issues needs medication. So they set up this place where you can go and do yoga, dance, drama, all sorts of things. And this year they took me on board to run a comedy course. So I run one with some Scousers and a couple of Nigerian women who were absolutely unbelievable. Everyone was unbelievable. And we run a 5 week course. So these are people who have never done comedy, nothing. And I get them in 5 weeks to do their own material. And we go on the hot water comedy stage to do a showcase on the 6th week to the family and friends. We had about 120, 150 people at the first event. It was a fantastic success. And we're continuing it. I've got the second course starting, but I wanted to keep going with them. So I've set up a creative comedy writing workshop. And we meet up now once a month, and we're expanding our comedy. We're looking at writing a book together about comedy, the mental health journey, and we're hoping to do a tour, maybe to one of the fringe shows next year.
That's amazing. Because have you? How did you come? How did you come up with this?
Right. Okay. So I'm only a part-time comic. I don't do weekend work. I started in this business about 10 years ago, just doing a comedy course. And I only did it as a part-time. I had a full-time job. People who don't know me, I'm from Liverpool, and so you'll probably realise that my main job was selling drugs. I think you might be glad to hear that they're prescribable drugs. I work for the pharmaceutical business. I've worked in the pharmaceutical business for 30 odd years. And so the comedy for me was just a side thing that I like to enjoy. And I did it in the beginning to raise money for dementia because my dad had dementia and he never saw me perform. We did gigs for Ukraine's refugees. And about I can't think of the time now because of COVID and everything. About 4 or 5 years ago, my best friend's son unfortunately took his own life, and it got me thinking of what can I do to help. And so I decided that I would do my comedy to raise awareness for mental health. And I approached a couple of organisations like Young Minds and another one called Jamie, who's based in London, who I'm now an ambassador for. And I raised funds and awareness. So I had a massive passion for mental health. And during COVID, as you can imagine, my job was going into hospitals. So that curtailed somewhat when COVID hit. In fact, I was home for nearly 2 years. We weren't allowed to go out the door to any hospitals. So the company I was with, as a Japanese company, set up these work streams, diversity, DE&I, and they didn't have a mental health work stream. And I asked the question, why haven't you? I said it's very important. And have you heard of that expression, be careful what you wish for?
Yeah.
I showed so much passion. They said, Henry, why don't you lead a work stream on mental health, which I did for 3 years with this company, trying to get rid of the stigma around mental health and the workplace. Late last year, I realised that we changed companies, we were bought out, and I wasn't that happy. And so I decided this year, being very nearly a pensioner, a pensionable age in the very near future. What did I want to do? And my passion is mental health and comedy. So I set about writing about doing a stand-up comedy course to teach it. And I started that. I'm a charity, not a charity case. I set up a charity, and that's where we are today. I literally started in, I think, March, April this year, and it's going really well. And that's it. Yes, that's how I started on this course. So I now do this part time. I don't bother. I've given up the corporate world, and I'm working part time doing this.
That sounds amazing, because like 10 years ago when you've just to like take it in a somehow a chronological, I guess, order. But so when you started doing comedy, what made you want to do it? What do you, yeah, what made you want to do comedy in the first place?
Well, it's really funny. I've always been into comedy. My dad and I were always watching comedy together. In fact, when I was very small, sometimes when you're a kid, you might listen to music when you go to sleep.
Yeah.
I didn't. My dad used to, this is showing you how old I am. My dad used to get cassettes of stand-up comedians, Jackie Mason, Bookham and Wise, all sorts of comics, the Goons. And I would just listen to comedy at night, and then I'd fall asleep, and the next morning go to school. But I've always had a passion. And, I never realised that, watching stand-up comedians and going to watch stand-up comedians, I never thought I could do that. I never thought that. I never thought you could do it. I thought you had to. I don't know how you got to do it. But one day I was having coffee with a friend of mine, and she said, some guy walked in, and she said, "Oh, that's we may have heard of him. It's a guy called Sam Avery. He runs a comedy course." And I said, "What the hell's that?" And she told me, and I thought, I've got to do that. I have got to do that. Even if it's just once, so just do it once. And I did it, and I got the bug. So that's 10 years ago.
That's amazing because you'd I don't know. I feel like it's such a huge leap or jump. I'll use a word I'm familiar with. That's such a huge jump to go from. No, because I always think about like how there are so many other like things that people can try and can do, and I feel especially with comedy, the tool that it takes on. You're basically like not home in the evening. You're going to you're getting home late. You're gigging all over and stuff like that. It's a hard hobby, or it's even a hard thing to try in the first place. Never mind try to make a career of it.
I never thought at the beginning that I'd ever try and make a career out of it. If you try and explain what stand-up comedy is to people who don't do it, and you say, "Well, yeah, I'll probably drive an hour, 2 hours to a show, stand in front of an audience I don't know for 5 minutes, get in the car, and drive back," and they look at you and go, "What? You just drive for 4 hours to do 5 minutes?" Yeah, because you need to get stage time and you need to get your name out there. Most of the time I did it for nothing anyway, just for the pleasure of doing a set. But I got lazy, and I decided that why should I drive around the country when I can set up my own comedy club? So I had a friend of mine who owned a cafe, and we set up a comedy club, and we ran it for about 3 years every month, until it got too much hard work. But yeah, it's if you're trying to explain what comedy is to people who don't do comedy, and you tell them that you just drive all around the country and then do 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then drive back, they think you must be mad. So when
So
we are.
when now you're although I said earlier that I'm going to do in somehow chronological order, let's ignore that, and I'm going to ask you this question instead. Now when you have to again when you're doing the course to other people, are they like what do they like, do they know beforehand exactly what they sign up for, or are they like taken by surprise by the things that you actually talk about when you start doing the course?
It's really, really strange. When I did my first one, I didn't know what to expect. And it was set up by a company called Care Merseyside, who got a group of people together, and they told them it was a comedy course, and they knew they were going to write some comedy and maybe perform some comedy. I didn't know any of the backgrounds of any of these people. I think we had 11 on the course, and 8 actually performed. And to be honest, I think I was very lucky with the group, because them being Scousers, they had a natural funny bone anyway. And when they told a story, it was just hysterical. It's a normal story. It was just hysterical. I was very lucky. I managed to get hold of Jo Brand through an agent. And I asked her, because I've asked her before, to do a video for me, a video clip about publicising Laugh for Life comedy, and for her to talk about comedy. And she did me a little video clip. And at the end of the video clip, it says, comedy takes a long time. It can take years to get up to be a comedian. And at the end of it, I said, you know what? That's the only thing she said wrong, because you guys here, in 3 weeks, were already writing material that could go out and you could do stand-up. So, and it varied. The people there were for various reasons. It could be you don't get told what mental issues they have. It could be just depression. It could be just that they like to be out. All varying degrees, which I learned about in the weeks that we were together. But the stories were just incredible. They just literally came out themselves. And the idea was, all I wanted them to do was 5 minutes at Hot Water Comedy Club. That was my first mistake, where I didn't really insist on them just doing 5 minutes, because some of them on their first show did nearly 15, 20 minutes. Even some of the pro comics I had there watching me, they said to me, Henry, how did you let them carry on? I couldn't stop them. They were just, every single one knocked it out of the ballpark. They were just carried on talking, and the lights, I forgot to tell them that the lights flashing meant they had to come off. I forgot. They totally ignored the lights flashing. I mean, it was a private do. It was a Laugh for Life showcase. So it didn't really matter. But yeah, when they came off, they said, what were those lights flashing for? Oh. But they were just unbelievable. And this new group that I've got are just as good. They've got some amazing stories. And it's just giving them that confidence. These people need a boost in their life, and they're in the community. I've got one or two who come along just to be in a room with other people, and that's what it's about. I know it's about comedy, but it's looking after them. My thing is looking after the mental well-being. So if you've got a group of people there, if they don't want to perform, that's fine. But if they feel comfortable and they're enjoying it, then they're getting a benefit. And a lot of them have been, the feedback I've got from the ones who've done the course already was amazing, of how they enjoyed it and what it meant to them. And it's a big thing. I think it's a big thing. Comedy and mental health go hand in hand, definitely.
I couldn't agree with this more, because I don't know if you've I don't know if you've seen it before or anything like that, but because I did talk about it in the past. But basically, when the way I started doing comedy was because I started writing, because my therapist told me to keep a journal, and because of that journal, that's what actually made me then go, I think some of this can be funny. Although it was, at the time, it was just like, it's like, I feel like trauma filled, stories, but I was like, this is kind of funny. And then I was like, oh, but then how do I make this funnier? And that's how I got into it. So I agree. And I feel like, I don't know, every time I have a gig, or every time I'm on stage, and, it feels like a privilege. And to me, it feels amazing. And it feels, even regardless of how bad something is, it just makes me look forward to something. And then once I'm done, it makes me, happy about the moment, or like what happened. So I agree. I think it's beautiful. And the whole writing process, I'm loving it so much.
Well, that's what I'm encouraging them to do. Even now in the workshop, keep on writing. Write anything. We might use it. We might not use it. Comedy is about embellishing a story that you have. And most of these people who wrote true stories about themselves, and even if they didn't do it on the actual night, quite a few of them really came out of their shells and talked about things that you probably wouldn't talk about on a comedy show. I mean, mental and physical abuse and all sorts of things. And I said, well, you're not going to do that on the night, are you? They said, well, I don't mind. I went, no. This is personal to you. So we want people to go away happy. They seem to literally, for instance, I had one woman who at the beginning said, I asked a question, of course, and like any course you should do. and being from Liverpool, what you like about bad language. People are happy about some certain language, the language. And this woman said, she was a grandmother, she said, oh, well, I'm a churchgoer. I don't really like bad language. To which one of the women there, who's in her late 50s, early 60s, says, well, basically, because that's all I do is swear. This woman went on to talk about subjects that amazed me, embarrassed me. She went on to talk about basically having her first orgasm on the stage. And I think, people are absolutely amazed that this woman was a grandmother. It was just unbelievable. And the other stories that people tell you, because as you know, we can make things up and make them funny. But if a story is true and funny, it is so much better and so much easier to remember. And that's what I try and drill into them. Something that you've done, something you've heard, something you've said, use that. And I think that was key. I think that is key to what I do. And I'm doing other ones as well. I'm doing another course. I was waiting for the funding to come through for cancer awareness. So we're hoping to get a group, maybe hopefully men, because men find it hard to talk about it, to do a comedy course where they'll talk about cancer awareness, etc., bring it out in the open. And again, we're going to do a showcase for that. I'm doing another showcase with some students. There's a student festival going on, and we're going to try and get some young students to come and do a workshop for a couple of days, perform in front of their peers, just to see whether they have a flair for it or if they want to do it. And at the same time, look after their mental health as well.
That's amazing. I don't know. I feel it's so beautiful, and I wanted to ask you about because you mentioned something about how one of the was it what did you say about like how your dad had suffered from dementia, and then you said that you raised money for it at the beginning through some of the gigs that you put on. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder now because you were talking about how you and your dad had this bond over comedy. I don't know what does it feel like for you even now? Basically, as a backstory, sadly lost my parents. Like neither of my parents have managed to ever see me do comedy, and I don't know. Sometimes I feel like especially in moments like this when like the podcast is going well, like my comedy, I'm starting getting like better and better shows. All these things are working out, but I think even when things are not working out. I sometimes feel like, I go home from a gig, I get at like 2 in the morning, and I'm like, my mom would be so pissed, if she knew that, like what they put her son through, like you said, to perform 5 minutes. So yeah, what's it like for you?
Well, to be honest, I was absolutely gutted that my dad didn't see me perform. I mean, he was well enough when I first started, and he was supposed to come to my very first showcase after the comedy course. Fortunately, well, I think it was that day or the day before that day, he received some bad news about his wife, who unfortunately passed away with cancer a few months later. And my dad said to me, he said, I know you've got your show today. I just don't feel like I can come today just hearing the news, but I'm sure I'll see you do another comedy set another time. And I said, yeah, of course, Dad. Don't worry, I understand. But unfortunately, how well they did that show, my dad went a bit more downhill with his dementia, ended up in a nursing home, and he never actually saw me perform, which I really, really regret. On the plus side, I have my mum who's still alive and she's 90. She is a massive source of my jokes. So she has actually been to some of my shows. In fact, she was my first heckler at a solo show because I was talking about when I was growing up, a story about I was growing up. And she shouted out in the front, Henry, you can't tell them that. So yeah, she's my first heckle. But she loves me doing the comedy. She enjoys. I mean, she's deaf as well, so she probably can't hear half of it. But it does give her a pleasure. And in fact, it's going back slightly. Sorry, because my dad didn't see me on stage, I decided to take my dad's original name, which is Chernyovsky, and I use that as a stage name now. Well, I have been for Henry Chernyovsky, as a honor to my dad. And also, it's very difficult for MCs to say it. So I love it when they make a mess of trying to announce me on stage.
I think it's amazing because I always think about how I think especially when you I think and again it's yeah, you hear like Chernyovsky and you're kind of expecting for someone who's say that yeah, I guess first generation English, or because you'd expect for someone to have gotten like a much easier name, and then you see someone with like a proper like English accent starting speaking, and it's yeah, I think that they help. I imagine it helps out maybe, or like it's quite creating a bit of a surprise to anyone who doesn't
It
know
does
you.
when they say when they're going to write Henry Chernyovsky, and I come on and say, I'm Henry. I'm a Scouser, and they look totally confused. A Scouser with the name Chernyovsky, so I have to try to explain all about it. So yeah.
And the thing that you mentioned about your dad's last name, I think is the same. So Lupu is not my actual like I don't know, like paperwork last name. It's my mom's last name that I chose to take just 'cause the same. I think no, I was gonna say she kind. I think she liked a very particular type of comedy. She was like three Romanian comics, and she made me fall in love with them. And but that was it. Now before you started comedy 10 years ago, you were saying about how when you were a kid, like you and your dad had a bond over this. But was there anything, I guess, arts related that you have done growing up, or was it anything else that you were, I guess, into creativity wise, or was it always comedy?
Otherwise, probably. My dad and I used to go to the football together to watch from Liverpool or sport Everton. So we used to go to the match together. But comedy was a real bond. We watch sitcoms together. We go to concerts together, and it was just our time. I remember um, growing up, especially on a Friday night. Being a Jewish comedian, Friday night is very very important to the Jewish people. We have a dinner and stuff like that. And my dad, when I don't know how old I was, 8, 9, 10 or something like that, he would wake me up about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night to come down and watch some black and white Marx Brothers film or a comedy film that was on the telly, and he'd make me Turkish coffee. As you know, it's very strong, and we'd have some bread, which is called challah, butter and jam. And so I've had a large cup of Turkish coffee, which is very sweet, plus the jam, and we watch telly until about 1:30, and then they go right off to bed, go to sleep. It's things that I remember so much that I loved about my dad, what we were watching comedy, and we continued. I would go around and watch Fraser with him or Cheers with him. We watch and stuff. We'd always have something to watch. But Billy Connolly, some of the old Jewish, and it's just an amazing memory. But we always had comedy in our lives. So even when he was not well, I would take him to certain comedies for him to listen to. So
That's
my
cool.
mother had my mother had no sense of humor. No, my mother had no sense. She still has a sense of humor, although she does give you some fantastic lines, to use.
I think well, I think that's a very I can think of my mom as well, where every time I think she was trying to make a joke, it didn't go well. I don't want to be a harsh critic, but it is the truth. But sometimes she would say something at random that would probably be the funniest thing I've ever heard. So I can, although actually even my dad wasn't that funny, to be honest. I feel like I'm just roasting my parents for no reason.
My dad wasn't a comic as such. My grandfather was, but my dad wasn't really a comic as such. We just like watching comedy. My mother gave me a lot of like when I'm older, when I was older, how she brought us up. It just worked so well in a comedy routine, because going back in the 60s and 70s, parents used to smack their children, which you can't do anymore. So I have stories about me being smacked and belted and all sorts of things, which my mum really objects to me talking about.
Well,
That's like
it's happened. It's got to be addressed. And now you were like, what was her reaction when? Because you're talking about how your dad was, meant to come to your first show. Obviously, he got terrible news at that time. But then, what about like your mom? When did you tell her that you're trying comedy, or like you're doing the course and then you're going to eventually perform?
I did the course and then I had a gap because I think my dad wasn't that well and I wanted to. There was a lot going on at work. I don't think it was because on the course I met a couple of comedians who'd done the course of the time before, and they were running a comedy night. And so I think it was about 6 months later. In fact, I went with an uncle of mine on my dad's side. He like took over the mantle of my dad. We'd go to the shows. He'd come with me to watch me, and I think it was about. I think they've been doing it for about 6 months. 6 months, and I tell my mum one day that I said, "By the way, I'm out tonight." She said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm doing a gig." She said, "What does that mean?" I said, "Well, I'm going to tell some comedy." And she goes, "Well, you're not funny, so what do you talk about?" So I said, "Well, hopefully they'll find a laugh." Oh, well, I don't think you're funny. That's fine. You want to go and do it. And it was about, I think, a year later, I did a solo show in a school, and I brought her along to do it because it was all about mum, basically. I think the show was thought I'd better bring her. She noticed, even though she gave me hell afterwards for some of the stories I told.
I am I don't know. In one hand, I'd like to think that every time I do a gig, although I talk about like my parents breaking up, and I talk about like stuff that my mom said to me that it kind of like scarred me up to now and things like that. I still feel like ultimately, it's if you ask me, it's because I want to like keep their memory going. I want to like it's like to honor them and to show. Although I often wondered if my mom was around. Although, unlike in your situation, I'm quite lucky that like my parents didn't speak English. So I feel like I could have said the most horrible things about them, and my mom would just be like, "Yes, yes, my boy."
I get that now with my mum because she can't hear me because she's deaf, even
Yeah,
with
of
me.
course, right.
She's just proud that I'm on the stage and it doesn't matter what I'm saying because she can't hear it anyway. So I think she gets pleasure out of that.
Oh dear. Now you've done comedy for a few years, and then you were talking about how the lockdown happens, and I think to me it was slightly different because I wasn't even a comic at the time. I started writing during lockdown, but then obviously to you, you're doing all these like great things, and it's a lot of good stuff happening, and things are building up, and then yeah, you got a pandemic that requires for everything to shut down. What was that like? Like how well, also like because obviously you were saying about how you had your friend, your best friend's son, the loss of your best friend's son, and then but yeah, how did that kind of like unfold for you? Like how did it feel for you at the time?
I can't remember the days ago, but I know when it happened with him, I thought, how can I honour him? And I thought the only way is what I do outside work, which was comedy. And so I really pushed myself to find more about mental health, spoke to Young Minds, who he was an ambassador for Young Minds as well.
Wow.
It came out of the blue, even though he was up and down, but it did come out of the blue. And I just decided that, it was such an important issue that it needed more awareness. I mean, it was definitely before COVID. It was before COVID. And when COVID hit, of course, that was very difficult. But I still did comedy. I did some online comedy. I did the Brighton Fringe online. I did some stuff for work. Did try and keep morale up. I'm not saying my comedy helped them, but I didn't see many switching off. I did Edinburgh Fringe online, that was amazing doing the Edinburgh Fringe online because I didn't realise that there was a number because you can't see anybody. Doing it online is the worst thing for comedians because you don't get that laughter back because it's just you talking. And when I did the Edinburgh one, I didn't realise that basically I was looking at myself for an hour. And the only people I could hear laughing was my son and my wife in the lounge because I was doing it in the lounge. I didn't know how many people were watching it. There could have been one. There could have been. I didn't know. And luckily, I didn't see the number because it was on the screen. But there were 1,500 live views. And I think if I'd seen that, while I was performing, I think I would have lost my shit, to be honest with you. So yeah, there were 1,500 people online watching my stuff, which was just mind blowing, to be honest.
Wow. I guess it's, like you said, it's for better or worse.
Yeah, I think because at the time people needed something else other than being stuck, and they're going to be stuck in anyway. You couldn't go out, and people were fed up with the computer. If there's some comedy, because I did the Brighton one and that went very well, and I did a lot of stuff just about lockdown because there was nothing else to talk about. I did jokes about lockdown and stuff like that, and took the Mickey out of my wife and what she was spending on Amazon and so things like that. So and just stupid things, and I think that helped me. I think that helped me mentally because my day job I couldn't go out. I was a medical rep, so my day was going out and speaking to people. And that's very hard all of a sudden to be stuck in an office like this day after day and just doing courses for courses' sake. So the comedy was a relief. That was definitely a relief. So I'm not sure that answered the question, to be honest, but anyway.
No, to some aspects it did, because it sounds like, yeah, it's helped out, quite a bit, and it sounds like which is also it's a question that I wanted to ask because I picked up from a lot of your answers previously is that you have a way of, I guess realigning things very quickly. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it sounds like, you're kind of, if something happens, it doesn't take you too long to be like, oh, okay, let's see how we do the next thing.
Yes, yeah. I think I get bored of my own material at times. I just keep on writing. So I like to go out and do a local gig with some new stuff and add it into my solo show. The solo show has a thing through it, because I became a sexagenarian during while I've been doing this, which I do have to tell some people in the audience that's not a sex offender. That's just someone becoming 60. And then do things about getting older. And now things have changed again because I did. Well, I have twins, so I did a lot of stuff about my children and my daughter getting married. So I did a load of stuff about getting married and finding a husband, and then I'm now a granddad. So now I do a lot of granddad stories. So it started with just taking the mickey out of my mother being 80 at the time and my wife and marriage. And it's just transformed. Every so often I'll write a bit more and do something else.
And well, does your wife know that you have made jokes about her?
It does now.
She
She
knows
didn't
after
know
this.
that. The first time she came to see me was at the actual the comedy course that she came. I can't remember what I did there, but I think I did a few jokes about her. But she was used to it. In fact, a funny story happened that I was doing a solo show at Edinburgh Fringe, and my wife came to help me and be front of house, welcome everybody in and stuff like that. And I think it may have been the first show. I had quite a few old friends from old pharmaceutical companies who came to see me because they were either in Scotland for one reason or another, and they knew about my wife. They never met her, only on Facebook they'd seen her, but they knew about her and um, they were introduced to her. And when I was doing the jokes about my wife and people were laughing, I noticed that lots of these people would look at my wife first, see whether they should laugh or not. No, she
That's
takes it in all good fun. Thankfully, she takes it in all good fun.
that's good. I think. I mean, yeah, that's the best way I think to do it. But then, what about your children? Have they come to your shows? And if they did, like, do they give you feedback? How are they harsh?
Well, my daughter doesn't understand comedy. She doesn't get jokes, although she also gives me lots of comedy gold. My son loves comedy as much as me, and we watch like Curb together and all sorts. It's like a reincarnation of me and my dad. Now I do, and I watch it with my son. We watch a lot of comedy together. My son loves comedy. He actually flew up to Scotland to surprise me at the Fringe one year.
No
I
way.
got he was sitting at a restaurant when I walked in with my wife, and he came to watch me the next day. Well, he had a load of friends with him as well. He actually came out with me to New York for a show. I did my show in New York, and we were on holiday, and he came to watch. I think, in fact, New York was the first time he actually saw me perform because he
No
lives in
way.
London.
That's so cool.
And my daughter loves coming to watch me, even though she doesn't understand some of the jokes most of the time. And I talk about her a lot because she's just comedy gold. Things like, I'll give you one line now. She said to me, I was on the train coming home from London one night back to Liverpool, and she rang me and she said, "Dad, what's your STD?" I was having coffee at the time, and I spat it out, and I said, apologised to the woman in front of me, thinking to myself, I said, "What did you say, darling?" She said, "Yeah, but what's your STD?" I think, how the hell did she find that out? So what do you mean? Like, what time did you arrive? I went, no, darling, that's ETA. So she has all these malapropisms. She doesn't know what they are. And she had loads of them. She just came out with them. So I put them in the act. And she goes, "Oh no, don't say that one." Whenever she says something, she says, "You're not putting that in the act, are you?" So I say, "Yeah, usually."
What's your STD? That's a very private question.
Exactly. I don't know how she found out.
Oh dear. You're. Oh God, I was going to ask you something, and I actually forgot because yeah, this is just brilliant. The Yeah, but I think as you were saying about how like your mom's not like your mom's sense of humor, like your daughter's sense of humor, but yet like you said, they are sometimes the people who say the funniest things.
Absolutely. They come out with it. I mean, my mum's lost her filter now. At 90, she'll just say how it is. And she'll ask some of those inappropriate questions to a 60-year-old son. And you go, "Mum, where the hell does that come from?" But she doesn't care. So yeah, so that gets added in. So into the melting pot, so to speak.
That's I have this thing where I feel like in the last year or so no, maybe the last year I kind of lost. No, I don't want to say. Yeah, I kind of lost my filter. And like if I don't like, well, like I say things as they are, regardless of what's going to happen. And then I realized I had a lot of. I thought it was I was upset with my mom, but it actually turns out I was actually very jealous of her because my mom used to be like very straightforward. Like my mom that didn't like something. I think like my mom. I remember she insulted my first girlfriends, but like to their face. She'd be like, "Oh, I don't like this about you," or like, "What's that?" or whatever. And I always thought, yeah, I was just like, "Oh, I wish my mom was, nicer." And then, yeah, only recently I was like, "Nah, I was just jealous."
Well, you have a special bond with your mother. You do have a special bond with your mum. And, funny you should say that about girlfriends. I remember once I was going out with a girl and I wanted to introduce her to my mum. And I thought I'd play a trick on her. And I had two of the female friends. So I brought them, all three of them, to the house, sat them on the couch, and I put my girlfriend in the middle. And I went into the kitchen and I said to my mum, "Can you come in the lounge? I want you to meet somebody." And she came in the lounge. She said, "What's going on?" I said, "One of these three girls is my girlfriend. Can you guess which one it is?" And she looks at the three of them and she picks right in the middle one. I said, "Mum, that's unbelievable. How do you know it's going to be her?" She goes, "She's the one I don't like the look of." It's actually an old Jewish joke, to be honest. So, but yeah, my mum was always yes, yeah. Oh, she wasn't happy with my until I married. She was never happy with my girlfriend choices. But that's a mother's prerogative, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned the Jewish joke a bit because I grew up I mean I grew up like I lived in Manchester like for most of my I guess young adult life, but and I knew that there was like a lot of there were loads of Jewish people in Manchester, especially in a part that I lived in when I moved there the first time, but I've never met any Jewish people from Liverpool. Did you? Was it like? I don't know, like what was it like, I guess, yeah, for you growing up in Liverpool?
No, no. There was a Jewish school. Well, a lot of my friends are Jewish. I didn't actually go to a Jewish school. Well, first of all, I only went when I did the sixth form. So I hung around with different groups of people. My Jewish friends, I have non-Jewish friends. Some of the times we mixed. So I had a happy upbringing on that side, loads of friends. And in fact, funny enough, some of the friends that I went to school with in the Jewish school, we still nearly every couple of months go for a Chinese. We've been doing it for 40 odd years, nearly 50 years, 40 odd
No
years,
way.
45 years. One guy lives in Manchester. He comes over. One guy's in the Wirral. One is over the water, and we all meet up every 2 months. We meet up for Chinese, and the conversation is exactly the same for the last 45 years. My wife gets very annoyed because she says to me, "What's the gossip?" And there's no gossip. We just talk about the old days at school and stupid things that we did at school. It's the same
No
conversation.
way. This is so cool.
So yeah,
Can I ask you actually something? Because I've never, I've picked you saying it, but I've never asked, and I heard it before, but I never asked why. Why do people call it the Wirral?
it's just
Like,
the
what
area
is it
is
not?
just called. It's just the area is just called the Wirral. You have Liverpool, and over the water it's called the Wirral. I have no idea why it's called the Wirral.
Because I thought Wirral is like a town of its own, no?
Yes, yeah, it's an area. It's an area like Merseyside covers all different places that cover Merseyside. The Wirral has so many different villages, but it's just called the Wirral.
Right. Okay. I hear it now because you said the Merseyside. Okay, fine. Yeah. Every time I'd speak with people and they'd be like the Wirral, and I'm like, why is not the Kettering or the anything else like the Stockport, I guess.
Like a ghetto, I suppose. But they got like a ghetto in the Wirral. It's a tunnel to get over to Liverpool, to the right part of Liverpool.
And well, did you? I don't know because you were talking about like how you went to do comedy in New York, and have you managed to like have you traveled a lot doing comedy as well?
No, you've got to change quite a few of the words to be understood. I've done gigs in Florida and New York, and in fact, my first ever gig in America was in Florida, and it was the day that Trump was elected. And I
It must
went
have
to
been
this.
fucking hard.
Well, there were lots of people very angry. There were demonstrations in Florida where we were having dinner, and I was doing this. I had to go to this Irish bar, and it didn't start till something like 11 o'clock. And the reason why it didn't start so late was because most of the people was a rap gig on the other side of the precinct where this Irish bar was. So I turned up about 10:30. I went on my own because my family said it was too late for them, and I was with my daughter's in-laws. And I went on my own in the middle of nowhere, and the guy who was running it came up to me and said, "Lovely to meet you." He says, "Now you do know that you're the headliner here." I went, "What do you mean the headliner?" "Yeah, well, could you come from the UK? You're going to headline. So, have you got any Trump jokes? Because he's just got in." I went, "No, leave it with me." Anyway, so it starts about 11, half 11, and then all the acts came on, and then I came on, and it went well. And then he came up to me at the end and said, "Thank you very much." Paid me. He said, "Did you?" He said to me, "I hope that the girl that ran out crying didn't affect your act." Oh my God! I said, "You're joking? Someone ran out crying." I don't think I'm not really that rude. Or I said, "Well, what did it say? I don't want to apologise." "No, no, it's a comedy night. You're not going to apologise." I said, "Well, what was she upset about?" She says she was upset with your Trump joke. And I said, "Well, they were all telling Trump jokes." She says, "Yes, but you were from the UK and you shouldn't have told any jokes about Trump." And I said, "Well, I do apologise, but you asked me to." And I mean, I think one of the jokes I said was that the word Trump in the UK means something completely different. It means farting, and they thought that was acceptable, except for this girl. So, but when I went back to New York, the atmosphere was very different when you talked about Trump. It was very different.
How different?
Half the audience liked him and half the audience didn't. So whatever I was going to say about Trump, I was going to upset at least half the room. So I decided to carry on doing my own stuff. Doing New York was one of the highlights for me. It's in Greenwich Village, where all the comedians did it. And so that was a real highlight for me, doing it in Greenwich Village.
As you would, yeah. Sounds amazing. I'm jealous. I only seen it on Google Maps, so yeah, it sounds fantastic.
It was. It was a really good night, and I think doing something in New York was extra special.
Well, we started by talking about like what you've been up to and how the charity work has been going. Now, before we wrap it up, I just wanted to see if you want to basically like give us another reminder of what's to come, because and also I'm very curious in regards to an expansion, because obviously lots of some of our listeners are actually from America, but we've got some all over the UK, and yeah, we'd love to hear if it's going to expand. If you got any plans for expansion.
You don't remember I started this year, and it's gone far better than I thought it would. I've done a couple of courses, done a corporate gig, and the idea is, yes, I do want to expand this. I do think I can get other comedians to do it in other places, and I'm happy to travel to other places. I am, being a charity, I'm writing to people for funding, because the more funding I get, the more charities I can approach and say, would any of your people benefit from this? There's a lack of funding, so not all the charities can say they are interested. They say just haven't got the funding at the moment. So I'm trying to get funding from different sources, National Lottery and all sorts of different places to try and help me get that to that place. And I'm happy to travel. I'm happy to go and do a course anywhere. I'd even do a course in London because I have a base in London. My daughter and my son live down there, so I can do a course down there. But it's any charities who may be listening who think that they might benefit, then please contact me. My name is Henry Churney. I'm on Facebook. My website is www.cuecomedy.co.uk. But the easiest place is to get me on Facebook. If they want to know more, I'm more than happy to give more information about the show, about what I do, what I teach. Because because it's such a passion for me, I know time's running out. I told you said before that the feedback people give me is more than the money that I might make from it and stuff like that. It's not a money making thing I do. It's a non-profit organisation, just pays our expenses. Someone says to you that in a feedback, Henry, thank you so much for this comedy course. In the past, I've had mental and physical abuse from my ex-husband, and I never ever thought I would laugh again. But being on your course has shown me that I can laugh again. Now, to me, that means everything, because she's gaining confidence. She was an absolutely fantastic performer on stage, and she just came into her own. And you would not know that she had this issue about life. So things like that. That's what it means to me when people can come to me and say, "You've really helped me," and that's why I do it. I'm not trying to be a hero or a saint. A Jewish saint, that'd be a good one. I'm not trying to be a Jewish. When you hear from people who say that's really helpful and they're really feeling the benefits, that's what's important to me.
No, of course, I think that's such a huge thing, and I agree. I feel like sometimes my theory, I guess, is that it's not about like sorry, I was going to say that the way I think about when I write stuff, and especially like things that have been traumatic, to an extent, it I always feel about the fact that it kind of like it makes it, at least I don't know, it makes it feel better, because it's like, well, it's a shame that it's happened, but at least I get like to make this like funny bit about it. Although again, is maybe on an ideal in an ideal world, you wouldn't need to write a funny bit because this thing wouldn't have happened. But unfortunately, we don't live in an ideal world. You gotta kind of work with what you've got, and that's exactly what you've got. Those memories that you'd rather, I don't know, see the funny side in it, or to do it, at least help heal yourself by make having a laugh about it.
As said earlier on before we came on air, I'm very lucky. I haven't had, I don't think I've had many mental health issues in my life. I know people who do have, a lot of comics have it. And when I see someone in my course who's so quiet, doesn't say anything, and then just this week, she wrote a little bit, it's like a little poem, and she said, "Can I tell you it?" And it's so poignant, a little bit of fun in it. And she said, "Would that be all right to just go on stage and say it?" I said, "You'll bring everyone to tears and laughter at the same time." And it's that journey that someone's had where they're so quiet that they're actually going to go on stage and just tell us a very short story of how they're feeling about what comedy's done to them. So
Wow. It's this kind of stuff that you can't just, I don't know, it sounds beautiful. Honestly, thank you so much for doing it, and or again for setting such a thing up, because I imagine it's not, I mean, again, as someone with no experience in it, I'm sure it is not easy, and at times it's probably overwhelming. So thank you.
well, thank you, Levi, for giving me the opportunity to come on your podcast. I really appreciate it.
Well, basically, yeah, we'll for anyone listening, you'll find in the bio of the episode a link to Henry's website. I'll put your Facebook name as well, so that anyone who enjoyed this, yeah, check out Henry's work, because it's amazing, for many reasons. And yeah, thank you very much. Okay, well, have a good night, and for anyone listening at whatever time they do, have a good evening, morning, and afternoon. Thank you so much, Henry.
Thank you.
Right, that was good, eh? I hope you enjoyed it. Um, hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed speaking with Henry and getting putting this together. So yeah, folks, that's a wrap from me, and you'll hear back from me on Monday. Yeah. We'll hear back from you on Monday with probably two episodes next week, but again, that's to be confirmed. TBC. Uh, but yeah, you'll hear back from me on Monday. Until then, from me, Pickle and Sarma. Stay skillful and bye.